Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
On today's episode, we are covering our favorite team, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. They have, of course, fired Scott Frost after an embarrassing loss to Georgia Southern, opting to pay him his $15 million buyout instead of waiting just a few weeks and paying him $7.5 million.
Can't suffer from that 3 weeks longer.
Yep. And I don't blame him. But now that it's over, what are your final thoughts on the Scott Frost era?
I mean, obviously we're Nebraska fans, but even for college football, it's just kind of unfortunate and sad that it didn't work out. And you know Frost wanted it to work. It was the perfect hire at the perfect time, and it just didn't work. Like, as Nebraska fans, it was so fun. Probably the most joy Nebraska fans have had in the last 10 years was watching his UCF team in those final games, kind of knowing that he was probably going to be Nebraska's coach. And especially after the Mike Riley debacle, it really helped keep Nebraska's fan base together. But, you know, looking at his regime or his era, we should have known right away when game one, they had the tunnel walk, the kickoff, and then a lightning storm cancels the game. And it just like kind of let the sails kind of went down. And then they opened the season against Colorado. True freshman Adrian Martinez, he ends up getting hurt in that game. And what do you know? They lose a one-score game. Just kind of a sign of things to come. And, you know, the team overall, they were always competitive, but they just couldn't get things to sync up. You know, when the offense was humming, the defense struggled. Or when the defense got better, the special teams was dreadful. You know, and then on top of that, of course, there were just some gut-wrenching losses. So hopefully the tide can change with this next regime.
Yeah, it was just as bad of an experiment as you could have ever imagined with Frost. There was not a high point in his tenure. Usually if you last 5 years, there's at least some positives that you can point to, be like, oh, that was a good win here, or had at least one bowl game. There was nothing. Like, Frost did squat at Nebraska successfully. It was terrible. I think they waited too long to fire him. I think that this should have happened sooner. I think it just sets Nebraska back another year. Going to maybe have another recruiting class that might not be as good because of it. So I don't know the politicking of it, what happened behind closed doors, as far as if it was the donors that kind of, pushed the envelope and wanted to keep Frost for another year, or if it was the AD. Either way, inexcusable to me, and just horrible experiment, man. Nobody could have predicted worse.
That's the key thing. No one could have predicted how bad this would go. Maybe you thought the hype was a little too much when Frost came, but everyone thought it was a good hire. Everyone thought it would go at least decent, and just to see it go so poorly was crazy. But let's move on and talk about the job opening itself. So obviously it's been a rough go the past several years, but how good of a job do you think Nebraska is at this point?
Right. So this is kind of where I'll get on my stand our ground, or at least stand my ground, and get a little defensive about some of the attacks on the Nebraska quality of job, it seems like, that's been thrown out there. It's still a top 25 job in my eyes, for sure. You're in the Big Ten, so that immediately gets you high points. So you get a ton of money, you got a ton of support. You can routinely bring in top 25 classes, which multiple coaches, every coach, Frost did it, Riley did it, Bo Pelini did it. So Nebraska kind of sells.
That's the key thing. That's the biggest part of any job, is what kind of talent can you get. If you can get top 25
talent, so you're usually in that fourth spot, or competing for that fourth spot in the recruiting, behind Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. That might turn into fifth once USC joins in. But, competitive recruiting. You sell out every game. You got a fan base that is as dedicated as more than any fan base out there. It travels well. So I think people are just underestimating the job right now. Yeah, we had a bad stretch of years. We've had 2 bad coaches in a row, but that doesn't just mean it's a bad job. It just didn't work out with those guys. So I've seen some people, and it kind of bugged me lately, is just make the argument with Matt Campbell over at Iowa State, like comparing Iowa State to Nebraska, thinking some people saying, like, is Nebraska really a better job than Iowa State? I'm just like, are you kidding me right now? You kidding me? Nebraska's a way better job than Iowa State. It's not even close. To me, that's just a joke. Nebraska's by far better. I mean, people overreact to such a small period of time. Yeah, Iowa State's had a few pretty good years with Matt Campbell, like 4 or 5 years. everything before that has been like practically horrible for Iowa State. So you're just going to negate that whole 50 years of college football for Iowa State being terrible when Nebraska was so good. So I think that's just such a knee-jerk reaction, a recency bias that just kind of annoys me.
I agree mostly with what you're saying. I know what you mean there. As far as better job, that can be subjective. Like if you think Iowa State's a better job, like it might be to Matt Campbell. He might say, because maybe I don't want the pressure cooker of Nebraska or whatever reason. I mean, it's all subjective,
Right.
but in terms of where can you win more, where is there a higher ceiling, that's clearly Nebraska.
Exactly. And that's kind of, I feel like, the general gauge of how you rate jobs.
Right,
and
right.
To me, it's just not even close.
Yeah, and I think it's still a great job. You know, no, of course, it's not the 90s, and they're not going to win national titles anytime soon. I get that. And there are disadvantages with the recruiting location. But like you just mentioned, they can still, even with that, they're still pulling in the top 25 classes. But with the money, the unmatched fan support, strong facilities, they got a brand new one opening next year. It's still a strong job. And to me, there is absolutely no reason that Nebraska can't be as good as Wisconsin or Iowa has been in the last few years. Like that's not that unreasonable of an ask.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have, of course, the narrative out there on Twitter is that Nebraska fans are living in the 90s, and maybe there are those fans out there, but I think most of them aren't. Like, we understand we're not Michigan. We're not Ohio State. We're not even close to those. So when we're saying it's a great job, we don't mean anywhere close to that level. It's definitely a couple notches below. But like Ryan said, I would say, yeah, top 25 job. That's kind of in line with, and we haven't even brought up the fact that with NIL being more and more important, Nebraska is one of the top schools there. So that could, that could help things in recruiting for them. So, all right, well, there's our homerish takes on the Nebraska job, but I think reasonable. I don't. We're not.
Yeah, we're not saying
irrational.
No, not even close. All right, who do you think the top candidates are? Who's your preferred candidates? Let's throw out some names here and discuss them.
My number one is Matt Campbell.
Okay,
I think he would be a really good hire. I just dogged Iowa State a little bit, but he has done about, and I've been surprised by some of the reaction from, I guess, other Nebraska fans online on Twitter and stuff. They see that they're not excited about that at all. They would really be disappointed. I'm like, what are you talking about? Matt Campbell's, that's this like 5-year stretch or so. I forget how long he's coached there, but this stretch at Iowa State, it's the best stretch they've ever had. So he is the best coach in their history, done as well as he can. Why wouldn't you want something that can do that? Yeah,
they were one of the worst programs, Power 5 programs historically, and they had not had a winning record in Big 12 play since 2000 when he got there. They've now had 5 straight winning records.
I mean, it's incredible what he's done. Yeah, he hasn't won a Big 12. Yeah, he hasn't made a, playoff or anything like that.
New Year's Six.
Come on, you can't. That's impossible at Iowa State practically.
Actually, he did.
So
he did
you
make
can't
a New
judge
Year's
him
Six
based off that.
Yeah, that's right. He did.
Yeah, he did, but just, So I think it's unreasonable. I like Matt Campbell a lot. He's my number one.
Okay. Let's see. So Matt Campbell, Matt Rule is another guy he's the current head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Of course, was in college as a head coach at Temple, and then Baylor. Did a very good job at both places. I would be happy with him. I think for me, I don't necessarily have a top guy. I think I would put in Matt Campbell, Matt Rule. I would say those maybe are my top 2 of the guys who it seems like there could be mutual interest. The timing might be hard with Matt Rule if, we don't even know if he's going to get fired yet. We don't know when that would be.
Yeah, what if he does well?
Yeah.
But hard to.
But I think he would be
They lost, right? No, they beat Cleveland. Or no, they lost to Cleveland, right?
They lost to Cleveland.
They lost to Cleveland on the long field goal.
Okay.
On the field goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
So anyway, I think those would be 2 good options.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of other names that are kind of more, in my eyes, like kind of almost safe. I mean, they're good coaches, but maybe safe, like maybe not the highest ceiling. But you hear Lance Leipold and Chris Kleiman. I love those guys as coaches, like especially at the spots they're at now, and they could very well, do good things at Nebraska. But they might be considered more not home runs, but safe, solid hires. I think if there was anybody out there that's a true home run, people say Urban Meyer, but that's not happening. I would say the only home run that maybe is a little unrealistic is Luke Fickell. Like last year, if Cincinnati didn't make the playoff, would he have actually gone to Notre Dame? You know, we don't know. Not a lot of people know the answer to that. So maybe if the timing works this year,
Nebraska
it's a perfect storm.
is not Notre Dame, so I think it would.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. No, I'm not comparing that. But maybe the timing works better this year. Like everything would have to be aligned, and I know it's unrealistic, but that's kind of my home run.
Yeah, I agree with you, Trey. He's the kind of home run where I'm sure a lot of people are watching this saying Luke Fickell is not going to Nebraska, and we all agree, extremely unlikely. But you got to call him. You got to throw a ton of money at him. If he says no, okay, move on. But you're not doing your job if you don't get some no's. Like you got to shoot high first, and just hope that you saw last year's cycle. There were some crazy, unexpected things. So you give it a shot for sure. But I agree, that would be an absolute grand slam.
And then you just see other names that have already been thrown out: Dave Aranda, Jonathan Smith, Jamie Chadwell. Like you can keep going on.
Jonathan Smith cracks me up because of the Oregon State pipeline.
I know that would be hard. Tough pill for people to swallow.
I would be excited for him though.
Yeah, he would be good. I think with Jonathan Smith at Oregon State and Lance Leipold at Kansas, their stature as the season goes on could really change. Like if Kansas were only, they're 2-0 off to a great start, but if they can make a bowl game, then wow, that really for me kind of brings Leipold even higher up the list. And same with Jonathan Smith. True. If they might want a little more than a bowl game from Oregon State, but
impressive though.
It is. Yeah. But I just love it. There's going to be so many rumors in the next 2 months that I'm just going to sit back and kind of watch.
What do you guys think about Mark Stoops? I don't think that he would leave Kentucky for Nebraska, but say he would. What do you think about that?
I'd be cool with it. I mean, I think we need somebody to bring in a stabilizing force, somebody that will, run a tight ship, a good organization. It seems like he's done that pretty darn well at Kentucky. He's righted the ship, and then the consistency that he's gotten there is impressive considering it's Kentucky football. So if you can do that there, I think he'd have success at Nebraska.
Yeah, and he's that Ohio mold. He's friends with Bo Pelini, so I don't know if that's for one reason. He also might not come, but I'm
higher on some other guys. What I do like about him that maybe like Matt Campbell and maybe even Matt Rule don't have is the recruiting. I feel like Mark Stoops is one of those. He's interested. He has a fever for recruiting. Like he has upped Kentucky's recruiting, like you say, Ryan.
Yeah, he's got some good members on his staff that can recruit.
That too, yeah. Okay. Dave Clawson, Wake Forest. Haven't brought him up. I love him as a coach. It kind of seems like he doesn't want to go to a pressure cooker like Nebraska. So that obviously worries me if he doesn't want to.
Yeah,
might not be a fit.
And there's one name that he has not been mentioned for Nebraska, and I'll be interested to see what jobs he gets mentioned for. But Dan Mullen, like he's probably going to get another job at some point. Like he obviously probably isn't a fit for Nebraska, but maybe if they get deep down the list, his name might show up on someone's. We'll see.
Whoever gets Dan Mullen, I think they're getting a really good coach and who's going to put out a really good offense. Yeah, it is concerning the way it ended at Florida, but
yeah, I'm not high on Mullen. I don't know why. Okay. I feel like I don't know. I think it's just the way of the turmoil. Like I can kind of, I guess when you lose, there's always some amount of turmoil, but it just seems like there was some bad animosity and stuff there that I was like, I don't want to touch that.
That makes sense. I think
that's fair.
I think we all agree. Everyone we've named, I think, has been a head coach, at least at some point, or maybe they were all current head coaches. But guys, Jim Leonard, defensive coordinator for Wisconsin, has been thrown out there. See, I agree. I would like an experienced head coach, especially after all the turmoil Nebraska has gone through. That would be on my wish list. So I wouldn't want him.
I could talk myself into it. But.
I could. I mean, listen, I could talk myself into all these guys.
Ryan, you wouldn't want to go.
Mike Riley.
Want to go.
You talked yourself into Mike Riley, so you can be talked into anything.
A lot of people did.
We did. Trey and I did not.
No way. Yeah.
I want to keep throwing out names. I feel like the viewers probably want more. Bill O'Brien.
Do we say Jamie Chadwell?
Trey might have said Jamie Chadwell.
I said it. Joe Moglia was trying to campaign for him. That's just, to me, it's that's a reach. Like, that's a whole new ball game. Like, too big. It's a big jump. Like, I don't know if Nebraska's willing to.
The jump from Frost at UCF to Nebraska was too big. Well, I mean, it ended up being too big for him. Just didn't work out. But
and the thing about Chadwell is he's never even been an assistant at like a big Power 5 school. So that is concerning. Like when you see Billy Napier going to Florida, that kind of made sense. He's coached under Saban, coached under Dabo. Chadwell, I love Chadwell. I love his offense. I love his personality. But it does concern me that it seems like all these SEC openings for the past year or so, they didn't seem to have him high on their list. So that was kind of concerning.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said Bill O'Brien. I mean, he could be. I mean, he did. Considering the circumstances at Penn State, he did well. Like he did. It was a tough gig. But I feel like he's always looking for that NFL gig.
Yeah, he wouldn't be.
That doesn't bother me. You know.
Like, yeah, if he's successful and leaves,
moves on.
Sure.
Yeah. Good.
Well, yeah.
But right now, Alabama fans aren't even happy with him as their offensive coordinator. So that's sort of again.
They were last year.
Last year they were fine, but
fine.
They were good.
Heisman.
Okay, it's hard not to be good when with Alabama's talent. But I think right now, if you ask most Bama fans, he does not have a super high approval rating.
One game.
That's true. Gary Patterson. No, thank you.
No chance.
I've seen a lot of positive things from tweets or something about him. Like, no,
his era is past.
No,
10 years ago, yes, but not now.
So many people, yeah,
maybe he could reinvent himself, but I don't want to take the chance on that. I would like him to prove that elsewhere.
Reinvent it in the Mountain West or something, and then maybe come back up. Okay. Who's done that?
Who's gone back down and then back up?
Yeah, and reinvented themselves. Ooh, that's a tough question. I shouldn't ask that.
I know. Right now I'm thinking about guys that went down the Mountain West. Steve Adazio. No, that definitely didn't work out.
Yeah.
Jim McElwain could be in the midst of that at Central Michigan.
Jeff Tedford went down, but he didn't go back up.
He didn't go back up. He just went back to the Mountain West.
And did well.
Yeah. There's probably somebody we're not thinking of.
Yeah, probably.
All right. Any other names? I want it. Bronco Mendenhall. I see. To me.
Oh wow! I didn't even hear that one. No.
I think I heard Bruce Feldman bring his name up. Oh, thank you, Ryan, for bringing up Lane Kiffin. You got to call him. You got to throw all the money in the world on him. You got to say, we're going to have the best NIL. We'll give you everything you want.
He's got ties to Nebraska.
No. He was born in Lincoln, right?
Yeah.
His dad was a coach there. Like he might not be super happy at Ole Miss. Yeah. No, I know. It's a long shot, but you got to at least suggest it.
Oh, that would be the home run.
See, now that is the home run of all home runs. That would be amazing. I mean, Luke Fickell's right there with him, but all right.
I'd even chip in a little money for that one.
Oh, I would. Oh, man. If we
I'd pony.
I've always wondered that. Why hasn't some fan base done a GoFundMe to hire a coach?
Yeah.
Like, don't you think if Nebraska fans said, hey, we're taking a shot at Lane Kiffin or whoever, name your guy, and you just put out a GoFundMe, would Nebraska fans not just raise like $100 million?
I don't know.
Maybe they would.
But what happens if you don't get them? Like, you get your money back?
Yeah. No, that's going to more buyout for Frost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Any other names? Last call for names. When we did the USC episode last year, I'm also a USC fan. Never even mentioned Lincoln Riley, so
No, it's just too long of a list to get that far.
How about anyone we've named or the field?
Anybody we've named?
Yeah, we've named a lot. That's a good question. Someone, we named.
All right. Well, maybe people from the future are watching this and laughing, but
we'll look back in about 2 months. So
let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Who you would like Nebraska to hire, who you think they might end up hiring. Thank you for watching this episode. We'll see you next time.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, Join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.